In this video I am simply looking through the D&D Beyond basic rules for Dungeons & Dragons 5e before they twist them into the new tweaked versions. I'm kind of curious to see what greets the players on their first read through. So we've got a wealth to get through, so buckle in or skip. Step by step character creation. I had a go on the D&D Beyond one. I wasn't happy that you had to buy the individual missing pieces. So text about starting a character. Choose a race seems obvious enough, and then it does mention sub-races. You know, dwarves have mountain dwarves, hill dwarves, elves have theirs, you know, drow, what have you. Explains basically having an idea in your head and then you choose the best suggestions to fit that idea. Choose a class. Which level are you starting at? Because a lot of people start at 3 because 1 and 2 goes by so quickly and it's so dangerous for those players. You may as well. Your hit points that you start with, proficiency bonus, the things that you are good at, you're going to be better at numerically. Your dice rolling will be buffed. As with ability scores, you'll be good at some things, average at some things, rubbish at some things perhaps. There are different ways of finding out what your modifiers are, and I don't find any of them particularly different or giving you an extra leg up personally. Describing your character, personalities and backgrounds. Backgrounds can be really important, but also you can have no background whatsoever. You could write it on the go as the story unfolds. So your character's abilities describe who you are. High strength means athletic body, while a low might be scrawny. High dex, gangly, awkward, or heavy and thick-fingered. Yeah, constitution, how sickly and frail you are, how good you are at bouncing back from diseases. High intelligence, inquisitive, studious. High wisdom, empathy, judgment, general awareness. Charisma is your personality and how friendliness and how good you mix in with a crowd. You get equipment, you get gold, you get some armour and weapons. In old D&D, you had to choose, are you going to be the wizard, the healer, the brute force, and now you could have a total party full of bards. A travelling band, if you will. Tiers of play, I just talked about levelling up, how you get stronger, things get harder. Your races might give you some racial traits, as there are small, medium, tiny, I suppose, small, medium, large in stature. They're levelling out how fast people walk. Dwarves and stuff used to walk at 25 feet, whereas most people walk at 30. I would never have a dwarf walk at 25 feet. I'd always have them walk at 30. So personalities and backgrounds, sub-races. This new bit of art that they've snuck in early. Talks about dwarves for an example. Names are always helpful. If you're a dwarf, your con increases by 2 off the bat. If you're a stone dwarf, you know about stone, so if that comes up, you get a buff. Hill dwarfs, mountain dwarfs, elves, Legolas. I mean, if that's not what most people think of, then I don't know what you think of. Your dex increases by 2 if you're an elf. So on and so forth. Halflings. I do like a halfling. Different humans get a +1 right across the board, which I think is only because we're humans writing it. I don't know why that would make sense realistically. Or there's the variant human trait. 2 different abilities get a score of 1. Gain a feat, which is kind of fairly new. I like the idea of getting feats at level 1. Dragonborn. Very cool. Breath weapon. I wish you did it maybe a little bit more earlier on, but I like all the different types. I'm always a bit downhearted that fire's repeated, lightning's repeated, you know, a cold. Gnomes. I have had a gnome character on one of the few times I've played, but generally speaking, I forget about gnome players because no one ever really plays a gnome with me. Half-elves, they're going to be a thing of the past, apparently. Society doesn't like the idea of half anything, so half an orc. Nope, just an orc. Which is fine, I don't care. Tieflings are cool because they're like the evil-y ones. Not necessarily evil, but the cool, you know, scary ones. Alright, classes. This is useful for me as a DM. The primary abilities and the saving throws. If I'm helping somebody build a character, this is the sort of chart that's going to help me out. If you're a druid, put your stats in wisdom and intelligence. But of course, playing against these rules is where some of the true fun comes in. Playing a wizard who is bad at magic. Like Terry Pratchett's The Colour of Magic, for example. Rincewind is a clumsy wizard. Barbarians hit things hard, and I've looked through in another video about in my classes section at the barbarians, and had some surprising features that made me think, yes, I would play a barbarian were I to be a player. Extra attack and healings are the things that I just naturally look for in a build, personally. Bards, you don't have to be a musician, right? You can be a stand-up comedian. Anything that entertains a crowd. Gymnast, circus performer. I like that bards can heal and help their allies with inspiration. Rituals casting. So many extra colleges now as well. Clerics, I would say, life cleric. Anytime there's a beginner, I suggest I'm playing life clerics. Kind of a base model deal, but yeah, love it. Turn undead, the life domain. Bless, cure wounds, spiritual weapon are all really solid spells. Druids, don't know that much about druids really. Wild shape is kind of cool. It needs making better though, in my opinion. Like timeless body. For every 10 years that passes, your body age is only 1. How is that useful, really? It's not appealing, is it? Your connection to the land tells you what sort of spells you cast. Not being charmed or frightened is useful. A good old fighter, my first ever character, straight up fighter. If you're not too sure about D&D, just start with the simplest build, which is really good when you get extra attacks and stuff. I think it's pretty cool myself. Monks. The word monk doesn't sum up what these sort of monks are until you say Shaolin monk, and I'm like, oh, right, Kung Fu monk, yeah, got ya. I mean, for me, it might as well just be called ninja. That's more what I get from it. Yeah, some interesting moves. A paladin, the goody two-shoes, but a solid all-rounder in most people's opinions. They can do a little bit of everything solidly well, and they can even break their oath and go off the rails, which is fun. A ranger, what does a ranger really mean? Someone who just wanders around. A wanderer. Doesn't sing to me, to be honest. A bit too bare bones for my taste. Rogues, I mean, the image is cool. Assassin's Creed, yeah, we're having it. Great moves, great skills, really useful. Sorcerer, big question mark. I don't know if I fully understand sorcerers. I do need to make a video where I read through all this business and actually learn it for myself. But this is not the time. Metamagic. I just started to get into metamagic and understand what they can do. Talk of a draconic bloodline, where they get their powers. Warlocks, again, something that I was like, I don't really get warlocks. And when people go on about their spells, maxing out at a poor rate, your packed boon, otherworldly patrons, they sound interesting. I wish there were more. And the good old wizard, bit squishy, but has the most spells, some would argue has the most fun, and some great schools of magic. Yeah, I suppose you could roll on these tables. That might be fun. Some players could enjoy that. I wouldn't bother. Alignment, I think it's changeable. I wouldn't bother with that. Languages, there's so many languages now. Like Grell. Grell have their own language. Not even on here. I like to randomise my personality blocks here. Flaws, I think a flaw makes a character. That's what I remember when we've played games. Inspiration is just a pat on the back and a little bit of a reroll from the DM. That's nice enough. Sometimes it's really good to dish it out. Backgrounds give you a few more details about your character. There's loads, and there's some that I've never even seen used. Starting equipment or wealth. I think firstly starting equipment, but then I also think give them some gold, so I end up kind of doing both a little bit, certainly at early levels. The coins, I still really have a problem getting my head around the exchange rate, so I just do everything as gold. If it's beneath a gold, then you've just got spare change in your pocket. Armour and shields should be more varied, more interchangeable, customisable, and therefore fun. Shields give you a buff, which is always worth it, I think, unless it debilitates your character. I could do with there being more weapons as well. Much more improvised creations, customised, that'd be cool. This is a lot to take in for a new player though. Making a character takes me about 30 minutes on paper. So there is a piece on improvised weapons here, actually. I don't think I've ever... that's just picking anything up. Silvered weapons, adamantine weapons. This is something that comes with late game ideas, really. Special weapons. Oh, special those. I like these tables. These are quite clean, neat. I have extra tables to give all sorts of other items. I think one of the best items to get from a shop isn't even here, by the looks of it. Chalk. One of the most underrated items to buy. The different equipment packs, not varied enough for my taste. I'd like them to be much more varied. And like the kits and stuff, herbalism kit. Like the other day, playing Strixhaven, they could create 3 herbalism kits from things they found and nobody really cared. Artisan's tools, it's a good idea, but do you ever use them? Mounts and vehicles. I have sold mounts before, they're quite interesting. Of course, really you want to be looking at Sky Zephyrs when you want to improve on the vehicle stuff. These 6 abilities were a great creation. Physical power, agility, endurance, memory, perception, personality. They do a great job. And the tables go up to 30, even though players tend to max out around 20, I think, is rules as written. Not in my game. A lot of the time you can progress through that roof. I tend to stick around DC 15 for a lot of things and adjust either side for that. There's just so much to take in as a new player, isn't there? And then variant skills. Passive checks is something that took me a while to pick back up after forgetting early on. People can spot a door DC 12 if their passive is 13, or maybe 12, you decide. But they don't necessarily have to be looking for it, searching for it. So, breaks down all the ability scores. Saving throws are the rolls that you do when something's happening to you, not when you're trying to do something. Chapter 8, Adventuring. The most important time scale is the 6-second span of your turn in combat, I guess. And there is the travel pace thing where you cover more distance but see less. I just don't really like that at all. Difficult terrain comes in fairly regular. Climbing, swimming, crawling, definitely less so. Jumping, you just look up these rules when you need them. There is time to split the party, you know. It's not all about staying together. Falling shouldn't be maxed out at 20d6. Suffocating shouldn't be that amount of 30 seconds. Vision and light and dim light and darkness, dark vision, a lot of those get misunderstood. Food and water, you start tracking food and water for a while and then you just drop it. Some roleplay tips. Short rests and long rests where you can heal and get spell slots back. Downtime activities. I love the idea of the upcoming, what's it called? Not strongholds, but basically, it nearly came to me then. Like bastions, the bastion rules. I'm looking forward to those coming, so you can have an adventure, then a little bit of time at home, then an adventure, then a little bit of time, and you can carry on going for years. And I like the learning a new language or training or learning a new skill. That is cool. Combat then. Who is surprising who, if anyone? They get essentially a free go. Initiative is deciding the turns, who goes first, but the person at the front could just hold their action anyway and go whenever they want later on. Reactions are literally something that happens without you really thinking about it much. Prone, I don't like the fact that if your speed is 30, you must spend 15 feet of movement to stand up. Even at my age, I can get up very quickly. I just dropped 5 foot from the player's movement. This is one of the most interesting things, interesting is the wrong word, useful things in the whole rules. Here are some of the things you can do in tandem as well as your movement. Open or close a door, pick up a dropped axe, drink all the ale in a flagon. This is something essentially you get for free. Turn a key in a lock. Oh, that's your action. Well, no, it's in tandem with my movement and action. It's kind of a freebie. Moving around other creatures, flying, sizes, attack, cast a spell, dash, disengage, dodge, help, hide, ready in action. Yeah, skip that. Cover, +2 if you're half behind cover, +5 bonus if you're 3/4 cover, and you can't be targeted if you're behind cover. There are spells that can do that, can wrap around corners. Critical hits. People have various rules for crit hits, don't they? The rules as written can mean that you roll ones on the extra damage, and it's just rules of critical hit, kind of ineffective. I say max damage, and then you roll your damage dice on top, and add a modifier once. Different types of damage. There should be more vulnerabilities in this game, meaning that double damage is done to certain things. Radiant should double damage undead. Instant death is when you get hit, double your maximum hit points. Unconscious just buys you some saving throw time or people to heal you. I've never done mounted combat, actually. I think I have done underwater combat. Spells is where my mind just starts to drift because I'm not a player and it sounds far more note-keeping than I like. Cone, cube, cylinder, line and sphere I can picture in my head, I get that. The spell DCs and the attack bonuses. Yeah, the only time that gets confusing is when it's like your spell attack bonus or your spell attack modifier. 2 different numbers entirely. You can't basically stack 2 of the same spell. Although I did have enlarged cast several times on a player, it got bigger and bigger like Ant-Man. and I was absolutely fine with that. List of spells, yeah, maybe for another video. Monsters come in different shapes and sizes. Different types of beasts and monster. Alignment, you can use alignment to see whether they would fight back or not, you know? But I don't think people really do. It's all kind of the same old stuff. Telepathy, I guess, isn't? Innate spellcasting. Now, my dragons certainly have started to have spellcasting abilities. There's a variant rule about dragons having a certain amount of spells equal to their charisma modifier. In all older editions, dragons cast spells, and it was better. Psionics, I'm going to do a video about psionics and the mystic class. Reactions, grapple rules for monsters, legendary actions. I love this. These are monster actions that go not on their go, they go in between player turns, just to really give them a sense of a ferocious beast they're up against. If they're in the creature's lair, they get special lair actions which do things, and outside of that, regional effects too. Always look up to see if your monsters have those. I mean, just stat blocks galore, which I do love, but I'll be here forever if I look at those. Customizing NPCs. Yeah, these are some good basic stat blocks for NPCs. We could argue all day about the ineffective challenge rating for monsters and players. And the XP multiplier for if you're doing it with 2 people or 7 people or whatever. So much easier to just milestone, in my opinion. How much experience you get just by playing the game per day. This fun combat encounters stuff, this is good. Terrain features that pose inherent risks, like stalagmites on the roof, or stalactites. Frayed rope bridge and pools of green slime. Make the environment interesting. Magic items. Attunement. You can only attune to 3 items at a time. I pretty much have players only have 3 weapons at a time. Pick another one up, they drop one. It gets overwhelming. Sentient magic items. You have to have a sentient magic item at some point. With its purpose, that's good. And its detriments, yes please. Magic item stuff's cool. Artifacts are much, much rarer. Running the game. Objects. Yeah, they all have their stats. Very rare I use those. Hit points. Again, for objects, whatever. Traps. Not something I've had to use really recently. In early adventures, I was all over the trap game, but just not doing the dungeon delves we used to do in old adventures. I do use them if I'm taking some new players around a mini dungeon though. Sample poisons, yeah, diseases, cackle fever. It doesn't have the brown mould on there, does it? Long-term madness and short-term madness, they can be fun. Indefinite madness and curing madness. Look, I've done a video on each individual condition, so that's done. The gods is just wow. You know, there's so many gods, but a lot of them you never even hear of. The 5 factions, they do keep coming up, and I wish I'd have read this before I ran my first adventure. Well, definitely Rise of Tiamat, because these play a massive part, and then just running every other adventure almost. And Planes of Existence, yeah, so exciting that you can go to other places. It's pretty cool. So much information, isn't there, to take in, just to know that it exists. Demiplanes and how to balance encounters. So damn overwhelming. And the more you know, the more experience you get, the more you realise you didn't need to know all that. So yeah, I mean that's a lot of text for a new player. Very inspiring though. Generally speaking, if there is a rule you're looking for, it's somewhere. And if not in the books, on Reddit. But it's much quicker to just make a rule up on the spot. Even if it's a 50-50 thing. Can you do it? DC 10. I am curious, what will the new basic rules look like? Will they be practically the same as that? Will I even notice amongst the hay of the old basic rules the needle of the new ones? I look forward to finding out, of course. It will all be talked about on here. For now, thank you.